Grace and peace. My name is Reverend Dr. Kirk Johnson, and I serve as coordinator for the Racial Justice Communion of New Jersey United Church of Christ. This week, the northeastern states were enveloped in a thick haze of smoke from forest fires in Canada, as well as the pinelands in New Jersey. These fires are occurring because of climate change. More forest fires have long been one of the symptoms of climate change that scientists have warned us about. And forest fires have been increasing in scope, size, and intensity domestically as well as internationally.
Greetings. I'm Reverend Rusty Eidman Hicks, and I serve as coordinator for the Environmental Justice Communion. For a long time, communities of color have borne the brunt of society's fossil fuel consumption by living in areas of carbon-based energy production, such as power plants, by living along hazardous air corridors created by highways, or like those impacted by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, people dependent on coastal fishing to make a living. Now, all of us are confronted with the reality that climate change is an equal opportunity disaster.
Absolutely. And to be sure, the impacts of climate change will continue to be felt harder in low-income communities that already have more limited access to healthcare, who struggle to upgrade their HVACs, who are renters with no control over how well their homes are protected from outside smoke, or who don't have resources to purchase air purifiers. Further, those living on islands along the coast or in the world's tropical areas will also be disproportionately affected by rising sea levels and warmer temperatures. Even so, neither wealth nor social connections can exempt anyone from global warming's effects.
The Bible instructs us in two key teachings that are critical for this moment. First is care of creation. When God created earth and nature, God considered it good. And when God created humankind, God entrusted us with the keep and care of creation. Therefore, we as human beings have a sacred responsibility to be good stewards of the earth we have inherited and will one day pass on.
The words of Jesus Christ also teaches us that we must love our neighbor. Loving our neighbor requires us to do more for our neighbor's well-being than just loving them from afar. We need to become more mindful of the consequences of our own actions on people we may never meet. We need to understand and work to change the ways that we participate in systems such as carbon consumption that wreak havoc on people's lives.
Unfortunately, even in the face of climate change happening right now in real time, there are a lot of people who would rather not think about it. Reverend Johnson and I will briefly mention some of the things you might hear from relatives, friends, co-workers, and fellow churchgoers. For instance, some people might say that they remember a time when there was a lot of smoke similar to last week. In fact, all of the measurements confirm that this week was one of the worst air quality that the Northeast has had in recorded history. There's no doubt that there's a direct connection to global warming.
Absolutely, Reverend Eidman Hicks. And some people might also say, even if there's global warming, it's a natural process. Although the Earth naturally has warmer and cooler periods, the rate of warming within the past 2 decades is orders of magnitude faster than any previous period of warming in human history. And the temperature increases correlate to the increase of carbon dioxide that we humans have released in the atmosphere, proving that scientists' predictions are indeed true.
Unfortunately, it's all too easy when dealing with overwhelming challenges to succumb to resignation. And so you will now start to hear a lot of people saying, in effect, that it just means the end of the world is coming. And so you might as well forget about it and prepare for the next world. But as Christians, we believe we will face judgment for our actions and inactions, throwing up our hands and letting the devastation run its course, knowing as we do now how impacts will fall the hardest on those who are most disenfranchised is a dereliction of our biblical duty to love our neighbor. Even if no one can stop climate change altogether, we need to work together to take immediate steps so that it doesn't get any worse.
Finally, You must hear people deflect from the systemic challenges by focusing on individual actions. They will perhaps blame you because you drive a car, or encourage you to focus on improving your own carbon footprint rather than addressing our society-wide carbon impacts. We support the principles of self-responsibility, of course, but the reality is that every day, political and business leaders are making decisions and deals that are only accelerating the pace of global warming. Less than 2 weeks ago, Congress approved a new gas pipeline that will devastate communities in West Virginia and Virginia to export gas to other countries. That will continue to make global warming worse. As Christians and people of faith, we have a responsibility not only to manage our own affairs, but also to advocate publicly for climate justice.
The truth is, we have a clear pathway toward a more sustainable future. We have the technology now to move away from our addiction to fossil fuels. Thanks to legislation from the past couple of years, we have funding to take us there. We don't have to burn coal, oil, or gas anymore because we can access clean energy from our sun, that huge ball of fire at the center of our solar system. Dramatic incentives are available through federal funds implemented through local energy companies and municipalities to install solar panels and heat pumps on homes, warehouses, and government buildings, to create solar and wind farms, and to electrify homes for clean power. We simply need the will to turn the corner.
Here are some particular steps you could take. One is to re-examine investment portfolios and move our money away from carbon production. For the United Church of Christ churches, this process can be done in partnership with our UCC pension boards. We are mindful that the US economy is currently carbon-based and will be for at least a little while longer. However, the money that we invest in carbon companies does not only go to maintaining the status quo, but they use that money to fight regulations and influence decision makers to enact carbon-friendly policies and deny the reality of global warming. Therefore, divestment from a carbon-intensive industries and oil and gas companies is the best tool to prevent them from continuing to throw up roadblocks on meaningful carbon reductions. Similar to churches and individuals, cities and towns also often have investment funds that they can use for better or for worse. Find out whether your locality's investments are contributing to global warming, and if they are, organize to move that money into green energy. Also, acting at the local and state level, Empower New Jersey organization keeps a list of proposed new fossil fuel projects and organizes demonstrations to show the community's opposition. Learn about events coming up in your area and come out to show your support. And local governments can take advantage of federal funds to upgrade public buildings to make them energy efficient or renewable powered.
Do local businesses in your area participate in the Chamber of Commerce? At the national level, the Chamber of Commerce has been one of the strongest voices to oppose almost all climate change prevention and to approve new carbon projects. Members of Congress perceive the Chamber of Commerce as speaking for the entire American business community. Organize locally to send a clear message that the National Chamber of Commerce does not speak for local or state businesses when they push forward policies leading to smoke-filled disaster days like the one we had last week.
These are just a few examples of concrete ways to advocate for policy changes. We cannot do it alone, but rather we need to work together with our neighbors, with other churches, with other faith communities. Working together, we can build a safer, greener world where everyone's health is everyone's responsibility. In seasons of intense smoke and devastation, such as we're seeing right now, may fade. We hope you will allow this movement and moment not to discourage you, but to inspire you to become more involved. As the Apostle Paul wrote, we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. Together, let us find a voice to proclaim new life for God's green earth. Let it be so. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Amen.